We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cammy, and I'm joined by Cosmomon09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. And today we're here to talk to you, at you, for you, with you.
From you.
No, never from you. So we're recapping the first season of From with all of you. Time to do some disclaimers because, in true Squawking Dead fashion, we have a discrepancy. As usual, I followed the instructions and only watched the first season. I'm the best. Everybody else is the worst.
That's why he wants to talk about it. It's the only reason.
Yeah.
Duh.
Anything I can do to improve the damaged image that I already have of me being the worst. So what we were supposed to do was take it easy. I know Bridget had already told us. Now she's no longer lying. She can't gaslight us now.
No.
Because this is like Fallout vibes. She had already watched. She's up to date on From. So that was in the corner. Sharon but accidentally watched the first episode of the second season. That's fine. And Rachel had watched all of season 1 and season 2, completely disregarding all instruction.
We're like the stages of Squawking Dead.
Yeah, from least to worst. Now, to be fair to Rachel, because you got to give him the sour and then you got to give him the sweet. Rachel's working her ass off. Her schedule changed in the middle of all these conversations. And I don't blame her for watching ahead, being so hectic that she missed some of the conversaals. Dude, let's just get
I
that
could
out
have
of the
told
way.
you that Ray was not going to be able to resist watching.
Because she didn't do last. All this to say, first of all, I didn't mean to bring this up to make it seem like I'm the best, even though incidentally I'm playing it up to make it seem like I'm the best, because I am, but that's fine.
Exactly what he did.
The whole point of all that was to say, for you, dear watcher, when you're watching us with our insights, some of us know more than others. Some of us know way less. First impressions of this series thus far in season 1 brain. Season 1 brain, put on that season 1 cap on, throw away season 2. Okay.
Oh, Lordy.
And we're going to start with Sharon D and me and then move on to you guys, just considering.
So I don't hate this show. I'm going to make that clear. I like it. It's not grabbing me. It grabbed me enough that I accidentally binged into the second season. I think part of the problem is Lost residue. It is a lot like Lost in that they're showing people's backstories, although I wish they would do some more show and not tell. I was rewatching before we came on, and Father Khatri, instead of him telling the story about how he got there, wouldn't it have been more interesting to see it play out? That being said, I'm not a big fan of all the flippin' mysteries getting stacked one on top of another. I dealt with that with Lost, like that was part of the fun. And I was 25 years younger, and I just don't have the brain power or the energy to try to figure all these mysteries out. A little bit of mystery is fine.
Which is why I think you'll love Silo, by the way.
But just like every single thing that happens on it is like, why did that happen? Now what's happening? What's going on with this? I'm afraid of that happening with From, where they just keep piling on stuff until you're like, there's no way you're going to answer everything. I'm not saying I hate it. It kept me entertained. There are some people that irritate me. There are some people that I love. I love Donna. She's one of my favorites.
I had a feeling you would.
Donna.
Yes. But my favorite is Jade. I love Jade. He is such a jerk.
Jade is hilarious.
He is so funny, but he also is like not wrong about stuff. Julie annoys the crap out of me. Let the monsters eat her because she's driving me crazy.
Oh no, she's our Alexa Nisenson / Jayla Walton on the show.
She annoys me.
That's what she is though. She's a teenager.
She is.
The resident teenager that people get to poop on, basically.
She's the Iris.
Iris.
From The Walking Dead World Beyond.
Not even close.
The other two were on Fear of the Walking Dead, by the way.
I feel like this is a network show. They have a little more leeway with violence and the F-bombs and
violence, nudity,
right.
F-word.
They have a little more leeway,
gore?
but the writing is not as sharp. The production quality is not as good, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's still entertaining. Writing, I'm just like, why are you telling us the same things over and over again? That kind of thing. I like the time flipping stuff, the slipping of the Confederates soldiers into the picture there for a minute, rather than Jade just seeing things.
Well, that's when the island moved through space and time.
I like the spookiness of the smiling monsters.
Someone, I think it was even Boyd or maybe Khatri, one of them called them a whisperer or called them the Whisperers. And from then on in my notes, I'm like, they're called Whisperers forever now. It's because The Walking Dead, for those who don't know.
I was just listening to a podcast about something called the Grinning Man, but basically it's all these stories people were telling about being like in a dark alley and seeing a tall, lanky man come walking at them with this crazy grin on his face. And each person told the same kind of story, but in one story, the man chased one of them and he was trying to jump over a fence, and as he got to the fence, the grinning man grabbed his leg and he managed to pull his leg loose and get over the fence. And when he went to the hospital, he could hear the doctor saying that it looked like someone had tried to skin him with their bare hands. And I immediately thought of this. Sometimes he was dancing. Sometimes he would run at them. Sometimes he would chase them. It was really freaky. I just want to say that I am liking the show. I like stuff that more along the lines of The Boys and House of the Dragon. I don't feel like there's as much depth in this show. It's all about like these surface mysteries. Instead of answering any of them, they're just adding more to it. I like the spooky things. The smiling freaks me out. I like that they look from the 50s. I think maybe the 50s might be something with a time slip too. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to put all the energy into this that I put into Lost. Avoid having my heart broken at the end.
Mental energy and emotional investment.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So let me expand on some of the things that we had said behind the scenes and bring it out to the front, because a lot of what you felt, not necessarily the unnecessarily complicated part of it, but then also in some places, especially with the dialogue, some of the dialogue was a little poor and repetitious. The fact that they're saying some of the same words over and over again is intentional. It's to hammer home a point about how, no, not everything's going to be okay. And that finally was brought up, actually, in one of the episodes when they were talking about Tabitha and Jim were talking about the death of their son, their baby son.
Thomas.
It's not okay. Stop pretending it's okay. And then they finally kind of put that sort of to bed, even though they said it's going to be okay again. Anyway, so my impression is more along the lines of when I watched it the first time. One of the things that's not fair is that coming off of having just watched Silo again, taking notes for it, Silo does a great thing of including the murder mystery on top of this sort of pseudo sci-fi post-apocalyptic story, but also there's a lot of momentum to the mystery. It's not something that you have to keep in the back of your mind. I mean, you could, but you don't really have to, because the show does a great job of reminding you or bringing it back or doing it in a way that's not like, you get it, Bridget. There's a lot of immediate gratification, whereas stuff like Lost and in shows like From, they bring up a mystery in almost every single scene. As a watcher, you have to have the mental fortitude or staying power to keep those facts in your mind as you watch. And like, oh yeah, they brought that up episode 1. It's, oh boy, we still didn't get anywhere. To distill my point, what I'll say about season 1, at least as far as I know, I feel like we got somewhere in certain spots in this season, but my feeling is the intention was that this was going to be multiple seasons long, and that sort of like in the way Fear the Walking Dead was. Fear the Walking Dead had always said that their whole thing was they're splitting up the story amongst many, many seasons, and that it'll hopefully make sense by the end when you see it all at once. Because some people try to make a series and think about the long game more than the short game. And I think that's damaging. I think when you're doing things for television, you have to consider each episode, not just the arc. Kind of this weird reverse problem that we had where back in the mid to early 2000s, shows like The Shield are coming around where, oh, there's an overall arc here, there's a shorter arc here. And it was great because most TV series were anthology style, where you solve a problem within the episode and you move on. Oh, here's a new problem, murder mystery. Oh, we'll solve that problem. Fine.
Self-contained episodes.
Exactly. And so here we have the reverse problem, which is it's all arc and no immediate problem solving. Now there is, granted, there's a problem within the episode that does get solved, but I think it's all in service of the great arc. The great arc, we pray to you, the great arc. And I think something gets lost there. So when the season finally ended, I felt like, where did we even go? Now, granted, I, like Sharon D, am enjoying this series thus far with season 1. The opposite problem of Silo. Upon rewatching the first season again, I did appreciate it a lot more because you missed a nugget here, you saw a nugget here, you appreciated this nugget more when you watch notes to kind of get it all down. It is rewatchable. It's totally rewatchable. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with either, actually. If the show can give me the mystery and reveal it and give me instant gratification in many ways, that's good too, like Silo. But if a show can be rewatchable, that's great, even though I'll never rewatch it again except for this season.
I think you have to have
that's
a balance. And by a balance,
Absolutely.
I don't mean
That's all I'm
giving
saying.
me 5 or 6 huge mysteries, like what are these things? Where are they from? What are they doing here? Blah, blah, blah. And then you have smaller mysteries like how did they find the talismans? How did they figure out the talismans work? How do they get food? So they answer little mysteries. That's fine. But over the entire season, answer one of the big mysteries. Like you said, you build up to nowhere.
And in that, by the way, it makes you feel like you're not necessarily anchored to the material. Because by the end of season 1, I felt in a small way, again, I want to make it very clear. I'm enjoying the series. I see what they're doing. I think they're looking at the long road ahead rather than the episode by episode or even the first season. Because to maybe kick it to Rachel, whenever I think of this, it kind of puts me in her mindset. Does the first season wrap up quite well? I don't think so. Not in a way that's satisfying and answers enough questions to be like, okay, that was a season.
It just leaves you with 50 times more questions than you started with in the first episode. And again, give me something tangible or important an answer, because it's hard for me to get invested when I don't have anything solid
to stand on. Knowing that I was going to say this and having had maybe 2 or 3 hours, 2.5 hours after writing my notes to cool down, there's some things that I remembered from both watching Outer Range. I watched Dark Matter recently. I had watched Twin Peaks finally a couple years back. I watched the resurrection of Twin Peaks that came out, 2 years ago or 3 years ago during the pandemic or something like that. I say this because I always have to consider compared to what, and that I am comparing things to recent things, to old things. I'm comparing the show to other things. It allowed me to take a step back. Watching the show again made me appreciate it a lot more. That there is something going on here that I'm interested. They got me hooked, and so I'm along for the ride. I don't dislike being hooked. I don't dislike mystery, and I feel like, Bridget, you're going to bring that up in a moment too. I don't mind being along for that ride to have people hook me with mystery. Do it. That's fine. It was just the season 1 not wrapping up quite at all, and in a way, the many questions that are just not answered whatsoever. All it did was feel off, but I like what I'm seeing. I'm invested in the characters and the story. And the best part is, as you're watching, you're rethinking what you think this place is in the first place. That's going to be a big question we're going to ask during this episode, season 1 brains only. So why did I bring up Twin Peaks? Okay, because I had this thought. Because there is something to this show, its soundtrack, that makes me think of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, very
and
much
then
so.
I remembered this show is a lot like Twin Peaks with a producer. Because had Twin Peaks had some sort of outside producer tamping it down, that would be From. It's a gross mischaracterization.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on that, but sure.
I did tweet about this just now. I said Twin Peaks is art. Twin Peaks at its time was basically a pushback against the rote television of the time.
Yes.
I get it.
Avant-garde television.
Yeah. And the fact that it made it to air to begin with is something we should appreciate. But at the same time, art in general is not always for everybody, and neither is Twin Peaks. And it shouldn't have to be, and that's fine, because not everything needs to be accessible. From is accessible. And so it brought me back to earth and being like, you know what? That's fine, actually. It made me value the show for what it is. And you know what? Not all television has to be the same. Not all seasons have to end perfectly. Not all episodes have to wrap up.
Not every show has to be Better Call Saul.
Exactly. But also, in some ways, that feeling actually lends a little flavor to the show itself, because the show does an interesting thing of making you appreciate the good and the bad, in a sense. I don't know if that makes sense as I'm saying it, but there's something about not everything has to have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that even though it feels like God is giving you a test, it's not always about the test. Sometimes the test is your life. And how you choose to respond to it. And so that in itself, our commentary on it does lend to the flavor of From. It's okay to compare, because sometimes it's kind of like I was saying, like Outer Range is a lot like this too, where, again, going back to Will Patton from Silo, but also in Outer Range.
I do love Will Patton.
Music is heavily littered throughout Outer Range, and it's a lot like Twin Peaks in that sense.
I forgot to mention the music. The music in the show is choice.
So I'm going to say something. Because for the most part, I agree with you. I love the score, first of all. Throughout the show, behind the scenes, that's great. It lends to the suspense. Some of the popular music that plays in some of the episodes. And then also along with the title sequence, which I have not heard enough complaints about, by the way. In researching the opening, many people do not like the title. First of all, it's long. It is
long. Honestly, it's giving Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds less than
it's the Pixies. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought it was Nick Cave, just with a higher pitch modification.
Right? It's a recent Pixie song, which obviously voices change over time. The guy is considerably older now, so this is his voice now. Just
hitting on that though, the popular music, like the title sequence, almost throws off the actual mood of the series, because the actual mood is pretty serious. The show wants you to take it seriously. The scary creatures want you to take this place seriously. And so sometimes when I hear that music, it's not creepy enough for me, or it just feels like something's a little off. And that's fine.
I like it.
It's not always going to be for me, and I accept that. That's fine. And again, the Twin Peaks idea, or the Outer Range idea, kind of brought me back, because I get what they're doing. It's a little self-aggrandizing in some senses.
I like the Doris Day version too much. I listened and watched the first time because, of course, I didn't know. The song literally made my skin crawl as I was listening to it. So I have always skipped it ever since.
There's some intentionality in these choices. Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, self-aggrandizing, a little self-serving in a sense. But you know what? That's okay. That's the mood they wanted to give you. That's the creepy / popular. It's just what they wanted to do. That's okay for other people, not necessarily for me.
I'm going to do a nice, tasty compliment sandwich. Obviously, I'm a special effects makeup artist, everybody knows. So I love the goriness of all of this. I love the splayed ribs. I love the guts, the blood, the gore, all of that. I wish maybe we could see a little more of that in action. That would be nice for me. Maybe not everybody can handle that. There were moments where the writing kind of made me go, huh?
Was it dialogue specifically, or just the way a scene was written?
Okay, see, sometimes it was how a line is delivered that I was like, I'm getting super nitpicky. But David, I will agree with you. I do think it's deliberate. Sometimes I feel like I'm hearing the same line so much from so many different characters. And I'm like, okay, we get it. But obviously they're trying to hammer in on something. I'm going to not invest any feelings into this show. I enjoy watching it, and I'm going to leave it right at that. Because if I'm being totally honest, at this point, I feel like we're going to get to the end of all this and be incredibly disappointed.
The Lost effect.
I feel like the writers, maybe they had like this awesome idea. They were like, oh my gosh, we're going to write a show about this, and it's going to end like this, and it's going to be super freaking awesome. But then they started putting it all together. And now they're like, oh crap, this isn't going to work. And I feel like we're going to see a whole lot of like, along the way. I'm preparing myself for disappointment at the end, because if it's anything but that, I will be ecstatic.
It's your classic MO.
Yeah.
You're setting the bar low, is what you're saying.
I am.
Yeah, to be more specific with my criticisms, though, too, just to tag on that, because what you're saying is somewhat the way I feel. Like questions being left up in the air, 50 more questions being thrown in each episode. And that's again, I'm looking at Bridget because she's giving me that face like, why don't you like this? No, I like this. I'm okay with that. It's just that when you're not answering enough questions to make it worth the buy-in, that's when you get that lost feeling. You feel like they're never going to be answered. And that's also fine too. It could be a writing mechanism that could hook you if you do it right.
You're gonna hook me with a mystery. I am in it to find out. But at the same time, I'm like, these mother fathers are not going to give me the answers that I want. I need these answers. But if I don't get them, I'm going to feel like every single second of my life watching this show was a waste. It can take right up until the very end. I will be in it to win it for the long haul, but you better give me
Rachel,
those answers.
We've been talking about rewatching Lost, but after you're saying this, I don't think you want to watch Lost, because you won't get the answers to anything.
No. I'm already mad thinking about it.
She's mad at the thought of entertaining watching Lost now.
But I'm going to watch it because I think they called this show From because the word lost was already taken.
I feel like they made this title so I couldn't tag it on social media.
One of the reasons I was very hesitant was the name. The name did not hook me. I'm enjoying the majority of these characters. Julie can spend a night outside Julie can go to the woods.
Meanwhile, we'll get an interview with the actress that plays Julie. She'll be like, I come around on your character.
No.
Like all of us would, by the way.
Julie didn't kill her favorite character on the show.
That's true.
Also,
Julie's going through it. Julie's an angsty teenager. So, okay, whatever. She hates everything right now. And that is very, very apparent in the character.
Fair.
Jade, love him. Love Jade.
I hated him at the beginning, but he really grew on me after the first couple episodes. He was so funny.
Oh, no. I was doing a live text with Sharon as I'm watching this episode, and I'm like, Jade in the escape room? Hell yes.
Well, and to a certain extent, isn't he us too?
Yes.
If we were magically dropped, he's literally us trying to figure out the mystery already because we think we're the center of our own universe.
We are absolutely Jade, and I flip and love him. But my favorite character, hands down, and I'm scared to say it out loud because I don't want him to die.
Because suddenly realize.
Is it Kenny?
No, it's Victor.
It's Victor. Okay.
Yes. Kenny has a special place in my heart as well because
he's like Glenn.
Poor Kenny.
I know. I just love him.
I love Kenny.
Like the heart of the show.
He's a little cutie pie.
He's so sweet.
He is so cute.
When he found his dad, it was so sad.
Oh my gosh.
I just want to ask, of the characters that you've seen so far in season 1, though, and I'll go to you, Bridget, who do you think my favorite character is? Besides Jade, because I like Jade for separate reasons.
Is it Jim?
No, I call him Paul Rudd clone.
Yeah. Yeah, I love him.
But it's Ian Bailey, but...
He's Timu Paul Rudd.
No, that's... No.
Dave, I know you watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, right?
Yes.
He looks like the guy from the My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
He does. Yeah. He does look like that guy too.
And
who also
he's
looks
probably
like Paul Rudd
one of my least favorite characters. He annoys me really badly.
He looks like Picasso Paul Rudd.
Picasso Paul. That's more accurate.
Weird.
Sure.
Your favorite character is...
No, actually, not even close.
Are there any computers on this show? It's Boyd.
Fatima.
Obviously, it's Boyd.
No, but she's
great.
My favorite character is Father Khatri, and he dies in the season.
That checks out.
Yep. And that checks.
But why? Because everything means something, but also stop looking at the reasons. It's
what a
fine.
Devastating loss for you.
It's about you. Yeah, that really sucked.
Was it on par with losing Rhaenys at the Battle of Rook's Rest?
That's a good question. You did have a season to fall in love with Rhaenys too, even though you saw much of her, but you didn't see as much of her until season 2.
I feel like his role in the community
is similar to Rhaenys too, by the way.
A stalwart advisor.
Bringing the community together.
Gives comfort.
It happens to be faith. He's giving them a common goal, something to focus on. Without Father Khatri, I feel like it's going to be chaos.
Partially, at least.
But it was chaos even when Father Khatri was there because they...
Well, in a sense, they were all chess pieces on the board, not playing.
Well, they did go 96 days without incident, so...
Well, see, and that's the point, because when Boyd comes in, he lays out the chess pieces on the board to start playing and filling out their roles. Whereas before, they were underneath floorboards and makeshift traps and stuff like that. And so they didn't feel like they could do what they were meant to do for the community. And now that he's filled that role and giving people comfort and advising Boyd and doing all that stuff, and just seeing the role that he has to play, at least in relation to this universe, and to have that cut short is intentional.
Yeah. And have purpose gives you meaning. When you have a purpose, you won't give up.
But of all the characters that they fleshed out, they did a number on fleshing him out the most, only to take him away. Because out of all the characters, you don't get too much until you get to the Stevens backstory, which is the very next episode, because he mentions, he was the first one who saved us. And then it goes into the flashbacks and back and forth and all that.
I have often said in other episodes of our podcast, evaluating a bunch of different shows, that I have struggled to find a connection to another show in the way that I did with The Walking Dead. Now, that might be just a once in a lifetime experience from a girl who grew up having zombie reoccurring nightmares. So that was very much in my wheelhouse. My favorite movie is Dawn of the Dead, the original. Get out of here, 2004. I think it spoke to me just on a really deep level, and I've tried to quantify that and then also like replicate that feeling with other TV shows. I've even looked back on past years to try to evaluate like where did I end up with other TV shows. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer was like that for me in high school. I just really, really, really strongly connected with it, and it created, and albeit small, but at least a community for me at the time. And that's what Walking Dead did for me. Obviously, I'm here because of it.
Do you think you'd feel the same way about Buffy had you watched it today, let's say?
Yeah. No, it's very, very teenager.
It's kind of like
characters
me in the Goonies.
Make stupid mistakes, and they're all like very self-serving and self-sabotaging. Those are all things that you can really relate to as a teen when you don't have a fully developed frontal cortex. But now that I do, I just don't identify with that as much because literally, girl, you're 16 and you met someone who's over 200 years old. Gross. And he's a groomer, and it is not a romantic love story. It's disgusting.
You need church.
It is what it is. It is what it is. And I loved it for a very long period of my time. And I still have a fondness for it. And I still connect with other people over it. Like when I went to New York Comic Con, I made friends over Buffy.
That's kind of how I feel about the Goonies, by the way. That's fair. Incredibly problematic today.
Still love it.
But I still love it for what it was. But at the same time, putting on film brain.
It's different.
It doesn't actually make too much sense.
No, it doesn't. It's fine. It's fine. It's fun.
As a kid, it instills mystery and wonder and hero's journey and all that. That's fine.
You will be hard pressed to find anything if you go back and watch anything from your childhood or anything older than 10 years. Hell, even anything over than 6 years. And you will be like, oh, that's bad.
No, I don't feel that way. I just think as an adult, it doesn't hit the same way. Like having that brain on and seeing the references and it's like,
correct.
This movie doesn't hold up as much as it should as a kid.
I like The Breakfast Club, right? Oh my God. When I was a kid, I loved
The
Breakfast Club. And I tried to watch it recently and I'm like, oh.
It's another teen
We're so
thing.
stupid.
Your underdeveloped frontal cortex just doesn't connect the same way.
Right.
Equally, I'll say though, just to close that, I can defend it on the level of putting myself back in that position and say, okay, this is why I liked it. This is what grabbed me as a kid. I can't do that with Empire Records.
I justified watching it by thinking, you know what? This is all about clicks and fitting in. And you still have to do that. If you're in a working environment, you still have to be this guy. So it still fits in the terms of society, but them acting like teenagers just is like, ew, stop.
All of this to say, From was one of the first shows that I watched recently that I really had to know what happened in the next episode. I didn't want to stop watching it. I just wanted to continue. And not only that, but I wanted to share it with the people around me because I wanted other people to watch it too so that we could talk about it. So it gave me that same feeling when Walking Dead was originally airing, when the first season ended. I was so obsessed with it because, I don't know, there's probably some level of neurodivergency that needs to be evaluated on me. I was like constantly looking for forums and threads that were talking about it. That's how I found out that they were doing the webisodes over the breaks, which thank God for that, because I don't know how I would have made it through that long period of time in which you didn't get any more Walking Dead. I was rewatching it because at the time...
Just the 6 episodes, right?
At the time I had DVR, so I recorded the episodes and then I would rewatch them. I was just so into it. Like everything about it was so good to me. And I showed it to all of my friends, bring them over to my house and make them watch it with me.
Tie them up.
And I did the same thing with From. Like Akila was coming over. We were watching The Ones Who Live as it was airing. She didn't have it at home. So I was like, I was like, watch this show with me. And then we would start watching From. And so we watched episodes of From together also. And anyway, it just became this thing that I was like, I really want the people around me to know what this is because I really enjoy it and I'm really liking it. Now, rewatchability, super great. Same thing with The Walking Dead. I watched the first episode probably more than any other thing just because the rewatchability is really good, but also because I go in thinking I'm going to do another rewatch and then I like get distracted and watch something else. Now, to be fair, it doesn't hit the same fully. It's not my favorite thing. It's not my favorite genre. It does remind me of a lot of stuff and I can see the Lost comparisons, but I see You're Lost and I Raise You and In the Tall Grass.
Netflix, right?
It's on Netflix. It's a Stephen King novel movie. It's an adaptation. That's why I felt like Ray was going to really like it because as much as you guys keep saying Lost, which is fine, it screams Stephen King to me. It's very much that same thing. It's like the big bad and they don't really make sense. And are we ever going to get the answers? Probably not. Here's the thing. That's intentional too, I think to some degree. And I just want to preface this with like, you guys must just go crazy in everyday life because we have zero control of our lives. You have zero control of anything that happens around you. And you're like so angry that you don't have control over what's going to happen and if you're going to get these answers. Two, I just don't think you're going to.
Yeah, I don't have control on what goes on in my life, but by gosh, on my television show, give me some flipping answers so I have some control.
It's literally the illusion of control because you have no control over actually what is created.
Did you notice that Julie was wearing a shirt that said illusions the entire first season almost?
I didn't.
Yes.
In the beginning, I think it was.
Julie especially changes.
On the topic of
actually.
Stephen King, though, I want to point out that Stephen King has a short story called I Bet They Have a Hell of a Band. And it's basically about these people that are driving out in the country and they make a wrong turn and they end up in this town. And when they get there, it seems like everybody is really tired and all the people are just run down and they can't figure out what's going on. They can't leave. And at night, everybody starts going toward this theater and they're like, where's everybody going? And they're like, Elvis, the Grateful Dead, all these rock stars are here. They play every night and we have to go watch them. And sometimes the shows go on for years and years and years because they're all... It's a great story, but that was the first thing I thought about when I started watching this.
Okay.
And they were stuck in the town.
Too much of a good thing is bad.
That's the essence I want to kind of latch onto.
Distill?
Because I think everybody's really going to like point out that this is similar to Lost. There's obvious parallels and similarities. But at its core, it really does remind me of a Stephen King piece of fiction.
It's Stephen King meets Lost, basically.
Sure.
When I say Lost, it's just shorthand for J.J. Abrams' mystery box. That's all it is. It's throwing in a bunch of mysteries out there to keep you hooked.
And I'm with you guys. Like, I was part of that. I watched it as it came out. I watched the finale live. I was pissed. I felt like I wasted a ton of my time. I get it. We've all had our time.
I was not pissed
to say this. This has been going on for years. We've all complained about Lost, for the last 20 years because it was a huge letdown. But here's the thing. It's the J.J. Abrams effect. He like comes in and he's like, here's your mystery box. I gave a TED talk on it. Don't you love it? And then you're like, okay, that's cool, I guess. How are you going to solve that? And he's like, nah, I don't know. I've moved on to my next project, actually. I'm no longer
I leave it to my producers.
One, I'm eternally grateful that he's not involved in this TV show because God love him. He creates a great mystery, but he doesn't know how to end them. He's like
Most
a J.K. Rowling. Like, I'm going to write my way into a corner and then surprise, the ending I've been telling you isn't the ending, is the ending. Surprise. Gotcha.
I want to add a little button to this because what I like about doing the comparison is that just like science, you figure out a theory, you figure out how to do something new because Lost inarguably broke television.
Oh, hands down. It was great.
Just like The Shield did it beforehand with the story arcs.
The marketing alone was amazing.
Lost is the reason we have shows like Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones because it opened the door.
And that's really my only point is that in doing so, Twin Peaks is the same thing, except not as great. But what I'm trying to say is sometimes you have to break a thing, kind of like the broken glass metaphor, the story of the girl in the room with broken glass. These things were something. We broke it, and now it can never be the same as it was before. Yeah, I just see shards of glass. But in doing so, along the way, you can improve the formula along the way and make something incredible because somebody broke the format. I'm looking at From with new eyes. I can appreciate it because of its forebears and because every show deserves a fair shot, which is why I didn't watch ahead because I was like, you know what, let me just slow down first of all. It's hard. I'll agree with you, by the way. I don't blame you for watching ahead. It's because not enough questions were answered that was like, I need to watch the second season because they're slow playing this bitch like mad.
I just wanted to say I really, really, really enjoyed it. And so while it is not my new favorite show, it is pretty high up on the list. It's maybe cracked top 10.
I think
so. That's a pretty big deal.
Maybe part of I don't want to say I have a problem with it because I don't. I enjoy watching it. But I also started it immediately after I finished a show that I loved. And sometimes when you go from a show that you are like, oh my God, I love this show. And then you go directly into another show that is a totally different genre and vibe. It's hard to switch gears that quickly.
Well, honestly, Sharon, I wasn't sure if you would like it at all. You require like a specific type of hook, and I wasn't sure if it was going to meet the criteria. You're not in the horror genre. You don't really care for that.
If we weren't covering the show, I probably would have stopped watching it after the second episode. But since we were covering it, I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep watching it.
That's a good temperature reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it something that I'm going to go nuts over? My tastes have changed since Lost too. I like shows more along the lines of The Righteous Gemstones and The Boys that are edgy,
ridiculous,
and sharp, right? And I'm okay with the gore. It doesn't really bother me, but I would be fine without it too. Although this one is not too super gory. Every once in a while they show a body that's ripped up, but it's not
much
too
to
bad.
mine and Ray's dismay.
In real time.
And I'm over here like, show it happen.
I'm like, this is sick and awesome.
Sharon, your comment reminded me of a point I wanted to make that I completely neglected it. And this is something we have to do every once in a while. Pilotitis is a real thing. I think the first time we talked about it on this podcast is when we were starting to discuss a new series called The Walking Dead World Beyond. It was a spinoff, but at the same time, what we liked about The Walking Dead World Beyond was that we noticed that the episodes may have been filmed out of order to decrease the possibility of pilotitis. And in this series, I completely neglected the fact that this is a brand new series starting from scratch. When you're doing a new series like this, when you're trying to break ground on this, trying to hook people in, you're going to get them on multiple levels based on different things. But you're also having these actors come together for the first time on something that doesn't apparently have source material. The characters and the actors are getting to know each other. The writers are getting to know their characters. I have to say they may have written the series maybe 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons in, knowing where they're going to go. And I believe in that. But it's one thing to do that. It's another thing to have the actors on the stage, metaphorically speaking, and getting to gel with each other and the characters having a comfort level with each other, knowing their boundaries. And that's fine. With this series especially, it works quite well because the characters that you walk in with, the Matthews, they don't know everybody from Adam. So in that sense, it works in their favor. But in the other sense, 4 characters that have been there for a while, 3 months without any incident, sometimes those characters, when they interact with each other, in many senses, it feels like they've had a working relationship. But in other senses, it feels like they don't know each other at all. And maybe that's the case.
Well, it could also depend on the characters. Do some of them stay at Colony House and the other ones stay in town? Because my feeling after rewatching the second episode, they don't interact a whole lot with each other.
Right.
So maybe in that sense, people in the town don't really know each other that well because they live in opposite ends, which there was a Walking Dead feel right there for me. Colony House. Man, the first thing I thought about was Hilltop.
It actually had a name, Barrington House.
Barrington House,
a similar name. Yeah. But to the point that I was trying to make with the pilotitis is that the actors aren't really 100% comfortable with their characters. I don't think the actors and characters are connecting with the source material quite as well initially until the train picks up momentum. As you watch, give it a little slack. It's kind of what Bridget was saying to you. Give it a little slack. Keep watching. You'll see. And then eventually, like I said, by episode 6, that's when the train just speeds off into the distance because they start answering questions.
I don't think I really felt that. I feel like the actors really captured their characters right off the bat. I didn't feel like a disconnect between the acting and the characters that they were trying to portray.
No. I say this because I give them slack because it's a new thing.
I wanted to throw one thing out really, really super quick and just see if anyone else felt the same way I did. Up until episode 5, I did not think that Sarah's brother Nathan existed. I thought he was a figment of her imagination.
What? He's on the screen. I get what you're saying, though.
He did not interact with anyone else until Sarah had her seizure and somebody came running to like find him and they were like, Nathan. I'm like, oh, someone's saying his name. He's real.
They say his name in the first episode. Kenny does.
Oh,
when they're at the car, when they're at Jade and Toby's
Nathan
car.
and Sarah are from New York. Yeah. Okay. You're right. But he could have like died initially and not really been around. Anyway.
You know, I love that,
you're
by
right.
the way.
He felt like a weird offhand character, like they just introduced him out of nowhere. But I feel like maybe he was involved earlier or something, and that's a scene that got cut out or something like that.
His character felt out of place for me.
To me, it just felt like who is this and why haven't we heard or seen of him before?
So that's just like a little side theory you had for a second.
Yeah, for like a minute. But
that's
obviously it didn't come. Yeah, obviously I was wrong, but I got to point out when I'm wrong too.
We clear up our facts. It's fine.
Okay, there's a couple things going on inside this
tin can
here. There's what I want to be true.
I love those.
And then there's what I am like more leaning towards to be true. So what I want this to be, I can't remember if it was Jade or if it was Jim. One of them talked about this being like some sort of experiment. Some group or some organization or some entity placed these people here somehow. Mm-hmm. And they're like watching them. I think that would be a very interesting concept.
That's actually where I was leaning.
Like to see that theory play out. But what I actually think is happening, I don't know if it's people. I can't even say what exactly it is that put all of these people there. But I did notice on my second watch, from the backstories we gathered, from the information that we heard about all of these people before they showed up in this town and what the clincher was, I feel like this place is where lost things end up. The bracelet was the clincher for me. All of these people, when they see that tree,
the fallen tree on the road,
are lost in some way.
Can I F your ass up a little bit? I do it because it'll keep you thinking. Okay, the bracelet, let's backtrack and tell people what that is. It's the bracelet that Tabitha made for Jim.
Yes, out of his father's shoelaces.
The shoelaces from his father's boots. This is right before Julie was born.
Yes.
Or she lost, at least he or she lost it.
Jim lost it.
At the hospital when Julie was born, their oldest daughter. I don't know.
Yeah.
The character that everyone wants to die. Anyway, so my theory about that is actually, what if someone had stolen that bracelet and they ran, and in the process of running made it to this stuck place and they had it on them. So we're going to F your ass up here, because in explaining that in this roundabout way that, oh, this woman came in with that bracelet and it made it to the storage
it's a
unit.
woman now.
I don't know why I had it in my head that it was a woman, because that would screw up your theory.
No, not at all. In fact, it only feeds my theory, because if this person who stole a shoelace bracelet isn't themselves lost in life and ended up here, I don't know what is going on. Because if you have to steal...
Not really.
Yeah. She gotcha.
No, if you have to steal a shoelace
theory.
bracelet, you clearly are lost in an emotional sense.
Oh, God.
It totally weakens your theory a little bit.
Not at all.
I'm not saying, Alyssa, I just want to be clear. I don't hate it.
Okay.
You can
because
try, but
I
right.
thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. That's why I was trying to challenge myself on that theory, just to kind of say, oh, wait a minute.
Jim and Tabitha are trying to get a divorce.
We know Sarah was escaping what I can assume
Domestic
is
violence.
Yes. And her brother was rescuing her from that.
Right.
Can we all agree that there can only be a certain number of people in town and people have to die for new people to enter?
Yeah. In fact, I thought that when they talked about the two cars at the same time thing.
However, Lauren and Megan died before the new arrivals.
The Pratts.
And more people showed up than what died.
Nope. That's not how it works out, actually. It's the equal number.
6 people showed up and 6 people died. They said it. But
correct.
Then Toby was killed, and he was one of the people that showed up.
Okay. Sorry. I thought you meant initially, because Lauren and Megan died before anyone showed up.
So Lauren and Megan die, then 2 cars make it in. There are 6 people total, because there's 4 in the Winnebago RV. Or whatever.
Yep.
And then there's 2 people in Toby's car. The 6 people make it in. Then we lose Toby, and then Kenny's dad and the nurse.
Bing Xian and Gina.
Yes, correct.
Gina?
So,
that was her name?
That's her name.
I knew it was something with a G, but for some reason I thought it was Tracy.
I could not.
Okay.
It's like Game of Thrones setting for House of the Dragon.
That's 3 and 2. That's 5. And then the dad gets put in the box.
That's Frank Pratt. Yep.
Frank.
So there's your 6th. 4.
Wait, that's only 4. Wait, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's only 5.
But then Toby died.
Oh, wait, Toby. You're counting Toby.
I'm counting Toby.
He was one of...
To balance the load.
I don't think it matters how they come in, as long as it eventually levels itself back out.
What was Sarah supposed to do?
She was supposed to kill Ethan.
That's the 6th.
But it ended up being Nathan instead.
Correct.
There you go.
But that was from the good
The ledger
people.
is balanced.
I guess so. All the people that died at Colony House during the attack are going to be replaced by the people on the bus then.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, the bus that arrives at the very last frame from Michigan.
I just think
Grand
it's interesting.
Rapids.
It's like an interesting idea to think about, like the in out of people. And
I think you're something to keep in mind.
And I knew, Sharon D, when you said there's homages to The Walking Dead, I knew that the digging of the graves ahead of the people dying
the Jim
was
reference. That's
very much
Jim digging the graves for everybody in the first season, right?
Correct.
I want to be prepared this time.
Poor Victor, man.
Oh,
poor Victor.
That's Victor.
Victor's lived a life.
A detail that you may have missed, by the way, about Victor, it's really odd because
I didn't miss anything about Victor.
Well, maybe you didn't. It's fine. There are certain things, and this is sometimes obvious and sometimes not. Sometimes it's simple as colors. On other shows, like people will tend to wear certain colors, or the lighting in this room or the scene is different because they want to tell you something about these people or this scenario. in this show, what they do specifically is dress certain characters a certain way. So maybe you feel a certain way about them, or maybe you see them as certain somethings. In Victor, they want you to see Victor as a child because same thing with Kenny, by the way, initially, at least, maybe all the way throughout.
With the high waters.
Yes, exactly.
His pants are too short.
Pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you want to see him as a bit aloof and awkward. And are you in the right role? Let's say you're a deputy, but you look really goofy. Anyway, but they want you to feel a certain way about him. He's not ready, But with Victor, it's really interesting because it's noticeable when you finally see it. The pockets on his shirt are down by his stomach. It's really odd placement, which denotes something. It denotes that, yes, you're a child. You're a child in an adult's body. The collars on his shirt are super long, denoting in a sense that, he's kind of a goofy childlike person. He's not quite an adult. So when you see it, you can't unsee it. I think his personality
gives this away, honestly.
Yeah.
It does, but pairing that with the attire, it keeps you locked in to that
Even
mindset.
Ethan got that because he was like, but you're drawing with a crayon, but you're a grown-up.
Right. We also have to think about the time frame. He's been there since he was a child, and I would assume he gathered up the clothing that was left over.
But the pockets being down by his stomach is really odd.
I've never seen a shirt like that. That is a choice.
That is not even high fashion. It's not like a thing somebody decided to do.
Seen a shirt with pockets down. I mean, unless it was like scrubs.
Which means it's intentional, which means it's so you're supposed to see this person as odd or out of place, like his pockets.
Clearly did not develop.
There's like a sense of arrested development there.
Right.
Absolutely. He is still very much, 10 or 11 years old.
Well, can you imagine the trauma he has been through? I mean, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not going to develop.
That he's remembering things that he thought were dreams too.
Yeah. This is also why I don't like Julie, is because how she treats Victor. She is so mean to Victor.
Everybody's mean to Victor.
But in today's world, as a teenage girl, you are trained to be afraid of strange men, especially ones that are watching you sleep.
Yep.
Right. But she can also take the temperature of the room and realize that everyone loves Victor. If he were a problem, someone would have stepped in and been like, hey, Victor, come on over here. She can gauge what's going on around her. Don't be mean to Victor.
Well, I think it's just like a girl from today's time being in this situation with a person who never really fully developed beyond, one, the time frame he was a part of, but two, beyond the age that he was when all of that started, which would have been like 10 or whatever.
Yeah, I thought he was like 7 or 8. Yeah.
To her, she gets like a weird feeling from him. And so her natural instinct is to just be like, I don't want to be involved in this. Plus, I'm a teenager. So automatically anyone who's different or weird, I don't want to know them, because then that reflects back on me.
She's so rude about it.
I don't fault her at all for the way that she reacts to that. I understand your level of frustration, Rachel, because I also really like Victor. So I am upset with the way that she behaves, because I want her to be kind to him, because out of anyone, he really does deserve kindness. But some of it he might be oblivious to, and he still goes out of his way to help her and save her
when Colony House is taking.
And so I think that shifts the dynamic a little bit for them.
Definitely.
I think it kind of subsides.
It gets better.
Yeah. Men writers, let's be real. They can't really capture the voice of a teenage girl very well. You don't know what it's like to be in a teenage girl's body.
Thank God.
And so, yeah, dude, this is
it's the worst.
It's a messed up place. But anyway,
it's the pits.
Worst ever.
I think that this is fairly well written in terms of accuracy for a teenage girl. The like angstiness of it all, the like, this is,
which is why I'm getting so angry with her.
This is only happening to me, even though it's clearly happening to everyone around you.
It is invoking this emotion in me, which means it's doing its job.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, and if you and I, as teenagers, were stuck in that position, wouldn't we be horrible and exactly the same?
Maybe even worse.
I would have been pretty awful.
I would not. I would have recognized the signs of his mental capacity or lack thereof pretty much immediately.
Let's add another layer to this, is that it's the timing plus the timing being tied up to a chair. Plus you're not looking for signs at that time, just to kind of throw Rachel, just to mute your natural instinct to look. Your natural instincts are out the window. It's down to animal lizard brain instincts. You're not going to be looking for, you just want to be protected.
I mean, at that point, I would be pissed at everyone in that house, not just one person.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I would be terrified of everyone, not just.
Yeah, even when Fatima's trying to be nice at first, she's giving her the apple. She's like, she's not with it. She's like, F you. F you, I don't like you.
Which is fair, 100%. Yeah.
I did kind of like yell out loud when Donna unties her and she like darts for the door. I'm like, you idiot! Like you're gonna get shot.
I would have done it. I would have done it.
I love that. That's authentic. It's like, dude, get to your husband to figure this out.
Well, get to your kids.
She already saw the guns. I would have assumed there was a armed gunman outside my door. I'm not trying to get shot.
Doesn't matter.
Before I see my kid.
I don't disagree, but I agree.
I'm also a gun owner, so I'm not going to run into open gunfire.
Yeah, and they are from Arizona. They should know better.
I loved the story that Donna told about her sister.
That's a great story.
I like how they're dropping these little backstory nuggets in. And yes, it would be entertaining to see it.
Right.
Visually.
Show, don't tell. Right.
I think it's intentional.
Thank you. I think it's intentional that we hear the story from these characters rather than see how it actually played out.
It would break the fact that you're in this world and you're meant to feel like really in it. If it was brought out of the world and into our reality, I feel like it would create a disjoint. It's trying to really like seal that in for you. Like, this is a horrifying place that people are in.
Yes.
And they cannot leave.
They're making us feel trapped here as well by not taking us out of the story. I like that choice.
It's the same as Silo. You're along for the ride. You're with the protagonist and not knowing a lot of things. Yeah. But it's also a lot like The Walking Dead. One of the things I loved about The Walking Dead on the side note was the fact that they never flashed back to before times. This is your life now, and you are different because of it.
Yeah. Even the flashbacks we get, Victor is in this town.
Which is a clue.
Stuck here.
Wink, wink. It's a clue.
There's clues everywhere, Dave.
They're really hitting us over the head with Victor's backstory or his not backstory. He's like, I don't want to talk about that. So obviously we need to know more about it. Obviously something is there.
Victor's a double-edged sword because yes, I did not like that. If you're doing the writing for this show, I like it, but I don't like it. I don't want to talk about that now. Could you think of something a little more creative to say? We're not going to, show is not going to talk about it now. But on the other hand,
but that's Victor.
Right.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I do like it because he has these premonitions.
They're not really premonitions. They're memories.
They're memories, but he also can see ahead. He sees things that are ahead too, at least as far as I can estimate.
Seeing ahead?
Well, we're not seeing him if he is, but the boy in white is like really feeding him a lot of the information that he ends up with.
Oh, that could be too. I do have a very small theory about Victor, because when they ask, when did you get here? Or how did you get here? I think he was always from there. I don't think he arrived there. I think he was always there.
I've wondered if the town, like whatever this, like the big they, right? Like the town or whatever the they is. I was wondering if they could send in someone to kind of like, they did it with Sarah with the like trying to get her to sabotage, but what if they just sent in someone to pretend to be a member of the community?
So Tom, the bartender, seems an obvious choice for that.
I was going to say I thought the bartender was really sus.
I love the bartender.
I love Tom.
He is sus, but he also knows that I feel like he knows things. He's like that guy that likes to spoil the story.
Isn't he like a psychologist or something, or studied psychology or something?
He said he was studying psychology.
Philosophy.
Oh,
he's a professor?
He's a professor.
Of philosophy. That's what it was.
Intro professor. Intro to philosophy professor.
That's what it was.
Thank you. Well, all of us figured it out together. Mostly Bridget. Mostly Bridget.
I've watched it a lot.
The podcast with the Grinning Man was on True Creeps, True Crimes. And the name of the episode is The Grinning Man Indrid Cold. INDRID.
That's Mothman.
COLD.
From the Mothman Prophecies movie, which mortified me because I'm terrified of Moz.
Mothman's sidekick.
He's the one that calls. He calls whoever the main character in that movie is.
What you just said about the bartender, and some people may be ringers for the they in the from.
Well, I didn't say that about the bartender. I don't think it's the bartender at all.
Oh, I'm just saying in general. In general, there are ringers probably, but like the Matthews and their board, you just have to write it on. You just let it stay there, and then you're gonna have to ask the questions.
Throw everything at the wall. See what
is an experiment, then they would be interesting to send somebody in to be a spy.
If you are conducting an experiment and you send someone in, now you are altering results.
True, then it's not truly an experiment anymore.
Then it's not an experiment anymore.
Science. Unless you're introducing certain stimuli to a control group, it's workable.
But who's your control group then? Are there others on the island? Anyway, I hate this.
And it would only work if the person that they're sending in has no idea.
If they're watching people to see how they react to stressors, or how they use survival skills or something like that, or how they develop survival skills and stressors, then it doesn't matter if you have a ringer in there, if they don't contribute. All he does is the bartender. He's a philosopher. Maybe he's the control.
Maybe he runs the whole thing.
He just makes me feel sus. I don't know what he is.
I've never gotten that vibe.
No, I love Tom. He seems like the light at the end of the tunnel. Like he's just like...
Yeah, I know. He's just like a chill guy. He's like, you know what? This place sucks. I decided to make alcohol.
He's like, here, have some potato vodka.
As for a control group, how do we know this is the only one?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I just joked and said, are there others on the island?
Maybe there are other islands, is what I'm saying.
Possibly. It's not an island, but yeah.
I'm using that as a metaphor.
We're just saying it because of Lost.
So I threw in Tom for a reason. Tom is instrumental in piecing together most of what I think this is. And again, I want to remind people, I've only watched season 1. I don't know how far they're going to take this theory. Some of the things that Jade still freaking out, he's like freaking out because he's realizing this place is real. He throws out a bunch of names, and I think they're important to discuss before we continue. Hardy's, Klein. Okay, Hardy's non-locality for entangled states of 3-spin 1-2 particles. It's a specific quantum mechanical argument that demonstrates the non-local nature of entanglement, where measuring the spin of one particle can instantly influence the measurement outcome of the other particles, even when they are widely separated, violating the principles of local realism. It's a theory of quantum entanglement. Moving on to Klein, which is really the Kaluza-Klein theory. Quantum gravity. It's a precursor to string theory. How two objects are connected across
I know what string theory is.
Yeah,
I watched the Big Bang
Theory. I had
to
dumb it down for Bridget here. Okay. So by adding a fifth space-time dimension, the electromagnetic field can be considered to arise from pure geometry. It's introducing electromagnetism as the mere component of gravity. In this sense, Kaluza unified gravity and electromagnetism, as well as matter and geometry. So lastly, to Jade's flourish, he mentions Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paradox. Mm-hmm. He doesn't mention the paradox part, but it is the paradox.
Yeah.
The description of the physical reality provided by quantum mechanics is incomplete. This is exactly what Jim Matthews said, only simpler. Jim Matthews, the father, the elder Matthews, the father. We're missing something on the board. We just can't see it.
Correct.
Okay. Now, all that's saying is quantum theory does not provide a complete description of reality. Mm-hmm. All of these things are describing the flaws in quantum theory. However, what does Tom the bartender say? He kind of goes like this. Yeah, Schrodinger's cat. You, like Jade, are looking at this guy going, what the F is this dullard saying?
Oh, it makes
complete sense. But it's so smart.
Yeah.
Because Schrodinger's cat is an example of something that is alive but is also dead. But what is the expansion of Schrodinger's cat? What happens when you remove the cat from the box in this theory? You
find out if it's dead or alive, and you're given one absolute truth.
The absolute truth that is if you open the box, the cat is for sure dead.
You don't know that.
If you leave it in the box, he's in a quantum state of both alive and dead.
It could be.
But Dave, the whole point is you don't know if it's alive or dead. It's not that it is dead, but you aren't 100% sure because you haven't opened it.
As long as it's in the box. The end of the theory is that if you open the box, you will find out the cat is dead.
How long did you leave the cat in the box is the question.
Yeah, no kidding.
If it's me, forever. But anyway.
Oh, that's my cat in the box.
Just kidding. Yeah. So there is a point to this. I'll come back to that point. What if everybody here, but is also not here? Here is not here, Morgan. What if while they were out on the road and they hit the tree, a fork happens and you see two different realities? The Matthews family as an example. There's a version of the Matthews family that continued down the road to their sad road trip where they eventually get divorced. There is another version of them living in this other quantum state where they end up in this, in a way, but instead of living their lives off in a branch, in reality, the second version of themselves were transported to wherever this is. Why that's important is because let's say you get down to the last season and they figure out that this is the case. What do they do now? Knowing that there's a version of them in the reality that they were supposed to be in, that they're living their lives.
Dave, I have a question for you. I have a serious question for you. Are you like a really big fan of Gwyneth Paltrow's feature film, Sliding Doors?
Oh, that's a good movie.
It's not. It's a really bad movie, actually.
It's not the same.
It's a
and
bad
why that's
movie.
not the same is because the part of them that branches off because of it's usually because of a decision, right? The whole multiverse is because decisions are made, or butterfly effect, or something gets in their path.
God.
Usually it's because of a thing that they feel like they have control over. I choose this, I go down this path. I choose this, I go down that path. The choice was made for them in this scenario. And the version of them that branches off into this place is not in their reality. So somebody stole them from the branch, thinking to themselves that this is a victimless crime. The real them is out there in the world. I'm taking the alternate version of them and branching them off into this. Let's just call it Dale's, because the guy that said Ellis was an animal because of his mom shooting up the town, he thinks it's a pocket universe. I don't know if it's that. I'm not ready to go that far. It's a bit of information we put on the board, but I think it is an alternate version of reality. Why I think it's cool is because maybe there is a version of them that's living out their lives in the real world and absolutely miserable, because the commonality.
I hate that.
They do talk a lot about all the people that are wondering about them back
left behind.
Yeah.
So what if they're not mourning them, the people that were left behind? All the friends she wanted to call, Julie wanted to call when they got back, have a version of Julie that's calling them all the time.
Let's go further with this. If you're right, Dave, how does this end?
And then what's the point of the
How does this end?
monsters?
I am asking an actual question. How do you wrap this shiz up?
So something that is said often is that this place can be heaven or it can be hell. It's kind of a choice.
Again.
No, I didn't say that.
I mean, literally, as a showrunner, how do you wrap this theory up?
There's a lot of places you can go from here, because clearly, as we found out in the last episode specifically, when Jim reaches out with the radio, somebody reaches back and says, hey, Jim, you shouldn't let your wife tear up the basement like that. I'm not using the exact words, Bridget. God, stop being so critical. So clearly they're being monitored. Clearly they know what's going on. Clearly they're transmitting messages to those who are susceptible, like the chocolate bar wrapper for Sarah. How would they know that? They were observing Father Khatri as he came in and buried the bag. They see everything. How? Who are they? From? Where? Just saying, there are multiple components to this, and whoever is in charge may have, I'm saying the alternate versions of them. I think that's cool because it reinforces the theory that this place is the only place for them. There is no other way out. There's more to what I'm saying, but I'm just leaving it at that.
If we are saying that people are monitoring them, which I think is pretty evident, somehow feeding Sarah this information, Donna and Jim hear this voice. It wasn't just one person, so we can't chalk it up to hallucination. Two people hear this voice.
Jade's seeing hallucinations.
Exactly. I mean, the hallucinations, I'm not convinced are these people, but this is hard evidence that someone is watching, someone is observing. So that has to be true.
It's an alien Truman Show, alien soundstage.
This is like the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
Monsters around Maple Street.
Oh,
yeah.
that was such a good episode. I'm going to get mad here again for a second, because if we get to the end of this series and they somehow switch gears and they're like, oh, nope, it was something else all along, I'm going to rage.
It was Agatha all along.
You are going to see a level of rage in me that you have never seen before. I'm so sorry, Bridget, but I'm going to take it back to a place of lost for just a moment. In the first season, they dropped all these stupid little nuggets that in the long run meant nothing.
I really don't think that they're going to do that here.
I'm so scared that it's happening again.
That's exactly what I was saying about dropping all those flippin' mysteries that didn't get answered.
I don't think they're carelessly dropping things that they aren't going to come back to, and they're not doing it in quite the way that Lost did.
Here's my backup for it being aliens. Look at how the plugs were shaped. That looks like something that an alien who doesn't actually know what a plug is would make.
Yeah, they ran it through the AI, and the plugs look like that.
Here's another idea. What if this is all like a collective matrix-y type thing? All these people have somehow ended up in like a government facility, and they're all hooked up to like a matrix-y machine, and they're all being in the same dream. And so like all these people that are dying, they're not really dead. They're just taken out of the experiment and other people are brought in.
There was a movie like that. I think it was called The Island.
The Island was when they were raising people to harvest their organs.
There were two movies very, very similar in name. One was like,
oh, The Lottery. That was that's the clone.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So that's when they make a clone to harvest their organs so they can stay around longer and
the
be
lottery,
healthy. Okay.
right?
These things are vampires, but instead of just sucking the blood, they just rip them to pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they focus on the internal organs, whatever it is, whether it's sustenance or not, because it's one of the questions on the board. Do they need to feed on humans? Why not the livestock?
I don't get a sense of urgency from them, though, at all.
They're walking slowly.
Exactly.
They enjoy the screams and the terrors.
It's a game to them.
This is like a game park for vampires. They get to hunt them.
A theme park.
Westworld for
vampires. Westworld for vampires.
Title of the episode.
There are game parks where you pay to go in and hunt big game animals. Maybe that's what this is. It's like a big game park, and they put humans in there for these vampires to hunt.
Wait, I just wanted to backtrack on my theory, because what you were saying about the island or that movie in particular, that idea in particular is that you raise, more that you raise a version of yourself to harvest the organs from to keep yourself alive.
That's what Sharon was talking about, not me.
Doesn't matter. This is why that came about for me, is because it's that they're both alive and they're both dead. Because the purgatory thing is just like a roll your eyes thing. They can't do that. It's been done. Not well, but it's been done.
Yeah.
But the idea of being both alive and dead is so intriguing. Being in a quantum state, meaning you're both things at once. So I like the idea that there's a version of them that's living out in the world miserable, because it seems that the commonality for all these people is that they're either running away from something, or as they're walking through life, they're headed towards a path that just leads to more suffering. Yeah. I don't know Christy's whole story by the end of this season, but it seems like things were good. She liked her fiance, but maybe somebody knows something out there that she isn't the right person for her or whatever. Marielle, thank you. But like, it seems like a somewhat commonality. Maybe it's that they're running away from something. Maybe it's that somebody outside, maybe the whole world's an experiment, or at least the United States, and they know something about the future. A version of you is going to be taken to this place to see if you can live life differently or a different path. Because what is clear about this series is that this place can be heaven. They establish it in the second episode when Julie looks out at the place that they're in, the stuck place. Because if you look down, yeah, it looks hellish. There's danger. But if you think about it, it's like the Walking Dead universe. The Walking Dead universe makes you to become the person you are meant to be. And that's maybe true here for a lot of people. Fatima says that in one of the latter episodes to Ellis. I'm afraid if this actually does work, because then who will I be outside? What is home anymore? Yeah. And so they have played with that, and I'm taking it in. I don't know what this place is, but I know that it could be a lot of things for a lot of people, and they let them have that become that place. Absolutely. To an extent.
So kind of to pile onto what you're saying, like becoming the person you're supposed to be, maybe, things were going wrong. They needed to like reset life. They do a very good job of pointing out that there's no computers, there's no TV, there's no cell phones, there's no, all of this like modern technology doesn't exist here. The important thing I wanted to discuss was the electricity and the wiring.
Yep. Why is it in the place that they sleep?
There are no wires. There's no copper. It's just
no an empty plastic tube hanging down below the houses.
And the lights seem to flicker, not at random.
That's the point I wanted to bring up.
That's what leans towards the alien theory, because aliens would have a much better technology that could
aliens is Charity's solve for X.
Aliens would have like technology that they could have lights without wires.
And I don't think the flickering is random. I don't think it's aliens. Again, it's an interesting theory.
Creating AI electricity because they don't know what it's the AI version of alien electricity.
To be fair, Rachel and I have both watched the second season, and we could tell you we don't know that it's not aliens.
It's true.
It's not aliens. It's not aliens. It's fine.
I don't think it's aliens
either, but her theory still stands.
I also think Jade's initial idea was not entirely off either. Maybe it is an escape room. Because the radios flicker in and out, the jukeboxes in the diner randomly turn on.
That is the ultimate M. Night Shyamalan twist. Surprise, it's an alien escape room. At the very end of the episode, she lands into the cavern and Victor's there, and he's like, the boy in white said you were going to come. And then he goes, See, and
So he waited there.
this is where they sleep. They also make drawings. Because he's talking about how he draws all the time.
They look like vampires to me, right? And obviously, maybe not sucking blood, but just ripping people to
more
pieces.
Like
obviously, if you see the numbers, the oldest one is like 1506. So this has obviously been going on for a long time. So what if they're ageless vampires, and over time they have been able to build up this world using technology that's not necessarily our technology because they've been around for 700 years.
So if you believe in vampire lore, glamour is something that vampires can do to humans where they wave their hand and make them believe something different. I can't believe I can't believe I'm going in.
This is like the LARPing game, Vampire the Masquerade.
Maybe they glamoured
it's a thing.
People.
Yeah.
And also in vampire lore, you have to invite them in.
I don't believe anything.
That was one of the things that
homage.
scared the crap out of me in Salem's Lot. Was the vampire would scratch on the window and ask to be let in. And there was a tree right outside my window, and at night when the wind blew, it would scratch on my window, and it scared the crap out of me. If the talisman is up, they have to be invited in. And as far as the talisman goes, what if that is like some kind of ancient runic language from vampires? I'm just saying.
I mean, clearly it's ancient, and
maybe that's why the talismans
old.
work, is it's something that worked against vampires back in medieval times. The people who are the demons or whatever, they all look like they're from around the 50s and 60s, maybe. The milkman and the girl that has the flowers, the kid that showed up, the like a little greaser with his hair slicked back and was talking to Julie. What if they just haven't upgraded their demons to the next era? Because obviously, if they had been the same demons since 1506, we'd have conquistador demons or medieval peasant demons, or in the United States, America, we'd have Native American demons or something. Every 20 or 30 years, they switch out and upgrade the look of the demons or their vampires.
The fact is it hasn't, so I don't know. I can't really say too much about that. But what I can say is it's odd that the talismans, the runes or markings on the talismans, resemble somewhat the drawings in the cave that apparently these things make. I don't know what the connection is to that. That's fine. Something to note. It's the place where they stay. It's where the electricity supposedly comes from, quote unquote. Even though it's misty down there, there's like scatter. There's like dust might scatter when they're down there too. Something interesting about this place in which they reside. It could be the nothing. It could be the everything. I don't know. I can't say too much. All I can say is what I spotted out. I wanted to say something about the electricity, or specifically the lights. Two important times when the lights flicker are as follows. One, the first time we see it flicker is when Jade and Jim, odd that they have two J names, let's move on, are both hanging up the antenna at the high tree for the first time. Jade puts his hand on the tree, and he has a House of the Dragon Game of Thrones moment where the tree starts bleeding, but it's really the body's hanging from the tree from the Confederate soldiers. It seems to me, and I wrote this down in big letters, is that whatever this entity is seems to use up a lot of energy right before they're going to show a hallucination. Maybe it costs them a lot to throw a hallucination their way. The lights start to flicker and stuff. And now that we know the lights are at the bottom with the nothing where the they are, then
what
it's
lights
possible
do they have out of the tree?
That's when it flickered in the house.
I can't say that those two things were happening simultaneously.
Let me add another one. Tabitha is at the bottom and she's digging, and then she falls through the floor. It's right beforehand that lights flicker again. I'm saying that to make things seem a little bit more supernatural for them, the hallucinations and the visions, I would even go as far to say if Jade was in the root cellar and there was some sort of electricity in the root cellar, for the first time thinking this is an escape room, he's like, oh, that's so convincing. It's so great. It's worth every penny. Toby, where are you, mother effer? If there was electricity in that root cellar, it would have been spent giving him that hallucination of the corpse that had the boulder on it. Again, it seems to me like every time they're about to show something extraordinary or hallucinatory, or like the storm coming in and them responding on the radio and Tabitha and the earthquakey thing going on where the actual floor above her collapses, the lights flicker then too. So whatever it is, they're expending something, causing the lights to flicker. I don't know. Maybe it's coincidence, but I don't think so. It just seems to time itself just before they're about to do something big.
I wonder, the voice on the radio, we're inclined to believe that it's like a bad person, but are they?
I'm neutral on that because I'm maintaining the position that this place could be heaven or hell. It depends on choices.
He doesn't say anything inherently threatening.
He doesn't. I think we just take it that way because, you know, you're like, oh no, like what's happening?
The music
and
and the
because
storm.
of what happens after.
Yes. Or is he really warning him like, dude, your wife really shouldn't be doing that?
He's the guy in the booth in the escape room telling somebody to stop playing with that's not meant to be played with. That's an actual light fixture. Yeah. There's no clue there. That's what he's basically saying.
In defense of my vampire theory, they also can't come out in the daytime. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Fair.
You know what? That's fine. Again, it goes on the board. It goes on the board, Charity.
So when people are trying to tell me to watch this show, they would say it's kind of like The Walking Dead, but it's not at all, really.
It's too much spooky beta-S. It's too much.
It's horror based. There's like some relationship there.
You got me when you said Stephen King.
But that's really what it's like. But it's not zombies. Yeah. It's more like vampires. It's monsters, but they're kind of like vampires. People are trying to like quantify like what it is. Because how do you explain the show to somebody who hasn't seen it? Hey, dude, do you want to watch this show that's not going to make any sense at all? And that's the whole point.
At least with Westworld, I could be like, I promise at the end of the season it'll make sense.
If you didn't tell me he didn't write this, I would feel like this was based on a Stephen King. I mean, between the monsters,
the 1950s
tree, the time period of it all,
he loves that.
Being trapped in this town, everything about this feels so
the nostalgia's
horrible
element.
Yes,
Stephen, you know, Stephen King is watching this show going, damn it, why didn't I think of this?
Has nobody seen In the Tall Grass?
Of course
I saw it.
Of course
maybe I didn't.
Okay, so it reminds me of that because of the whole premise of like going in and not being able to get back out.
Yeah, there's that.
That's really where it comes from.
It's like the Hotel California, only it's grass.
Yeah, exactly, Dave. Actually, that is exactly the premise. You just spoiled it.
I hate corn mazes even before I watched In the Tall Grass. Being trapped.
You don't like being trapped
like that where
on land, on water.
Stephen King's works alongside with this show will make me never want to help anyone ever again. And also, if I ever see this tree blocking the road and then crows, I'm going to be so terrified for weeks on end.
All right, let me add a little flavor to this because the crows mean something in some cultures.
What if you see ravens, though?
Oh.
Well, then my sister's been a real bee to me. I don't have a sister. But that's what that means.
Watch out for an unkindness of ravens.
I just love that the mom looks at Tabitha, like looks right at her. And unkindness.
But isn't that this show? The show is the same way. You can look at them and say, oh, they're crows. They're a murder of crows. Or they're just an unkindness. It's heaven or hell. It's what you choose to see them as.
That's barfy. I don't like it.
It's too cringy.
Well, it's just like the voice. Yeah, well, that's me. It's just like the voice on the radio. It could mean something bad, but it could just be informative. Anyway, so stop playing with the light. It's not a clue. Crows are, in most mythology, are psychopomps. Psychopomps are creatures that guide the souls to the afterlife. In I'm going to say this wrong. Yoga Visasta, an old sage takes the form of a crow to recount Earth's history. In Greek mythology, the Grim Reaper is accompanied by a crow. In Greek, the word chronos, time, chronos, god of the harvest, the Olympian gods, and choron, crow, they both have the same root verb. So, it's a time, harvest, and
all
crow.
you have to do is watch the movie, the original, The Crow.
Yes, I know, but you know what? We're
That's
generation removed from The Crow.
All of his information from is he just watched The Crow.
I didn't even write it because it's in my soul.
It is.
He's watched it so many times
as a teenager.
He's watched it so many times. I know he has his emo hair and he's dressed all in black. Suddenly, Dave has
I have the first two movies on DVD. My top and most used Halloween costume is The Crow. Because you pinned me down, Bridget. You know who I am. You know who I am. It's fine.
I do, because I'm the same, Dave.
Anyway, that's a great song from The Cure, right? Psychopomp is a Greek word, and it means conductor of souls. It's also a great song from the legendary rock band, The Tea Party. Knowing this, it's very interesting because if they are, let's say we'll go with the theory that they're just souls that wandered into this place. I'm not saying it's that, but how each one of these people everybody that makes it to this place intrinsically knows that going beyond the tree is bad. Seeing all the crows threatening overhead is interesting because the souls are instantly, the crows are like the border. Don't go here. You're not supposed to go here. It could mean a lot of things.
Well, if you've gotten to the crows, it's already too late.
Right.
You're already
That's
in.
kind of what I mean.
You're already in. If we go with this route of the afterlife again, I feel like the creators do just way to beat a dead horse. Like, honestly, like, just, we don't need to do this again.
Who is your eye candy?
Dude, are you serious? You're not into Tom, the bartender? Oh, come on.
I mean,
I wasn't thinking him at all.
Cool dude,
Jade is kind of a
eye candy. No,
Tom is a
Ellis
good
is all
looking
right.
guy.
Alice
Alice
is
is
a looker
beautiful.
right there. Alice and Fatima, the Adam and Eve of the
my gosh.
Garden of Eden.
That's why I
kidding me?
love Jade's reaction at the very beginning, because he's just telling everyone how beautiful they are, because
He's so.
it's
That's what I was gonna
hilarious.
say next.
He's the self-insert of the audience
it's funny.
because it's Hollywood. So everyone is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yes.
I love that.
But what if it's something else? What if he's seeing something that
Well, he's
Oh,
not.
Nobody
it was
else
all
can
the drugs
see.
he was
He
on.
was-
he's the one who sees the
Stoned.
hallucinations mostly? Hold on a minute. When he's being questioned, did he say he was on any drugs? Clearly, he looks like he was on drugs.
He said it.
He has
He said
drugs.
as
Lead
much.
does not make you do that.
Yeah, Dad, I know you don't approve of my proclivities.
he.
You and me both
Did-
have smoked weed before, and actually all of us have smoked weed before, right?
No,
we don't say
I
our-
never have.
That was not weed.
That's illegal.
He was not high on weed.
No, he was
He
not.
didn't smoke weed later, but what I'm saying is that is supposed to lead you into
Right.
understanding that he is a drug user. And obviously, he and Toby were both extremely.
Well, Toby was definitely influenced, yeah. See, but that's the thing. I'm going to pull a Walking Deadism. We didn't really see a body in terms of him actually having taken drugs.
Are you saying he
It
didn't
was never
take drugs?
said that he had been on drugs.
I swear he did, didn't he? He said
Nope.
I swore he did.
I think he did too.
He said that he has taken drugs. He didn't say in this instance that he was on drugs.
someone had mentioned, "Oh, you were the guy in the other car. You're the
Jim,
reason we
that
crashed."
was Jim.
And
Yeah.
he's like,
No.
"I wasn't driving. I was."
No, that was Tabitha.
And then I thought he followed up with a comment about how he had taken something.
She
Nope.
said, "You were the reason we crashed," and he said,
Yeah.
"And I lost my best friend since we were 12 years old, so I guess we'll call that even."
This is a fourth
Oh,
grade.
okay.
Yep.
He was on ecstasy.
It just goes back to the mystery box and it playing on you because you take things for granted. Don't take this for granted. He sold a software company whose quantum computing algorithm with a ton of application potential. What if the software company has something to do with this?
Are you a computer right
What
now?
if the moon wore pants?
It's an alien Westworld park for vampires.
It's Westworld for alien vampires. Simple.
I expect an apology from all of you when I'm right.
Are you-
You know what? You'll get it. You'll get.
I
I'll do
think
whatever
it'll
you
piss
want.
me off
I'll
more
do
than
whatever you
anything.
want. I'll do whatever you want.
The only thing that is worth mentioning is Tabitha's dream. I don't know if this was in the last episode or the second. I think it was in the last one. It's the beginning of the episode. She's seen digging up the hole that she eventually finishes by the end of it. And she's walking up supposedly to get dinner because Jim has cooked dinner. And she's seen going up the basement stairs and eventually ending up in a stone staircase.
It's the lighthouse.
Either way, we don't know exactly what it is. It could be the lighthouse. With the years on the landing, I'm really only bringing this up because she is yet another one who is like Jade in a way, seeing hallucinations, suddenly transporting, or dreams, kind of like what Victor's saying, but his dreams ends up being real. And it goes back and forth between the stone staircase and her out in the town. And when she looks up at Jim, she hears a car horn. There's all these little tiny things that we may see later on. Maybe she's seeing a vision of what will happen. Ethan's toys are on the stairs for some reason. She sees the dates on the wall. I just wanted to point out that this is yet another person that is seeing things that aren't grounded in reality, or maybe are things that she'll see in the future. Ethan obviously sees something. Victor obviously sees something. Jade is seeing hallucinations. Sarah's hearing voices of Abby, definitely. Abby Stevens. So it's good to keep track of who is on the board in terms of the supernatural or somebody that could hear the voices. Wow.
I just have to be careful about how I respond to you because you've thrown out a lot of theories and I just can't really speak on everything that you've brought up.
I don't want to send you down any one direction or another.
In the dream itself, you're also hearing the blaring horn that Boyd hears at the end near the lighthouse.
Yes,
so
the foghorn.
There's some sort of connection there.
Lighthouses were intended for two reasons. One, to guide ships into harbors, and also to warn ships away from harbors if there was rocks or shoals in the way.
And fog, hence the foghorn.
Maybe Boyd and Sarah were going too far, so the lighthouse was like, yo, you need to back off, like this is a warning light or something like that. Doesn't explain who dragged them, but...
See, and this nudges me more in the direction of simulation. That was my gut instinct when I saw the wires just dangling. There's just no rhyme or reason to their function.
The AI plugs that look like they've never been... Somebody made them and never seen an actual plug before. Despite what I've said, y'all, I am in a hurry to go watch season 2, so take that as you will.
Take that, me from earlier. All this lends to, by the way, and this is why I don't like it, but also kind of why I do like it. Kind of like what Rachel said, is the end kind of determines whether what we watch is genius or not. This is what I was saying about Silo. Sometimes we like to watch things and get at least some immediate gratification rather than the constant delayed gratification with this show. There are some things that you get out of it, and that's fine. But again, balance, right, Sharon D?
We need a little bit of answers along the way.
The reason for that is because this is the Lost problem. It puts a lot more pressure for the ending to be good. Because if it's not, all of it was not worth the ride.
Don't write this kind of show if you don't already know what your ending is going to be and how you're going to get there.
I'm actually afraid of the opposite problem. I think they know where this is going. I think they have a general roadmap all the way till the end. The opposite problem is when you watch a show and you get a clue or they wrap something up that ultimately makes you figure out the whole thing. And then you have to wait till the end to actually see if what you said was right. And it's going to be a thing that they didn't think was obvious, but it actually was. That's what I think will happen.
That's fine, as long as we have an answer.
I've said this about Game of Thrones and the way they ended it. I feel almost with Bran being king that they were like, this is the one theory that nobody has really put out there as a valid theory, so let's do this one. Right?
And they were right. It's like when Bridget said, what if the moon wore pants? What if Bran was king? That's what people. That's
sometimes
how people
you just
said
gotta
it.
float a theory, you know.
And speaking of theories, we'll be back here next week to talk about season 2 of From. And if you like what you've heard here, and maybe we missed something, maybe we didn't, maybe you want to tag on something that we talked about, maybe you want to throw out your own theories based on your season 1 watch only, or you want to give us some S in the comments and reviews, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Leave us 5 stars and a talisman to let us know that you love us. But tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like, tell us what we might have missed, tell us all those things. Just remember to tell us after every episode. Do it in the comments of this YouTube video if you're watching there. Do it in the comments on Spotify. Rate us, review us, wherever you find us. It really helps us out. And if you really like what we're doing and you want to see this unedited episode, which now at present is 3 hours and 10 minutes, it will undoubtedly be at most 2 hours. Head on over to either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead and just follow us so that you can get our recording schedules and you can join us in the chat lending your own theories during our recording sessions. It's the only place we post our recording schedules. We don't post them on social media. It's free to attend these recording sessions. It's free to follow. Do that on Patreon and Ko-fi. Really like what we're doing? Tip us and you'll get the pre-squawk insights. These are my notes that I write up for some reason before these episodes, as well as the unedited recordings where you can listen to the whole thing uncut without destroying all these takes, cutting out all the laughter. Just kidding. I don't do that anymore after getting some feedback from my hosts. And really, you should consider joining a membership tier for as little as $4 a month on either Ko-fi or Patreon. You'll get access to our Discord. You'll also get access to our Discord if you tip us on Ko-fi, but you'll get more access when you join a membership tier. If you join the Survivors, Whisperers, and Great M tier, you'll get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up, as well as 50% off in the merch store. If you join the Survivors and Great M tier, you can join us in the studio with your face and mic to break down episodes along with us. Check out the full list of tier memberships and perks on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. I'd really appreciate your feedback on what we have to offer and what we could offer. And I'd really appreciate your support. I think the ladies would as well. We'd like to visit more cons with your help. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Cosmom09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's BUNKYBRUISETR. And we'll see you next week for our discussion on season 2, as well as the season 3 premiere of From, the season 2 premiere of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. And you can get all this and more on our Ko-fi and Patreon. We posted our initial recording schedules, a calendar, as well as the links to the studios. It's there for you to join.
What if the moon had hair extensions?
What if the moon wore Depend? Not Depends.
Just one Depend.
Did you know that it was called Depend? It's the Mandela effect.
Oh my gosh.